Welcome to Ignite Purpose with Christina Foxwell. I'm your host, and in this season, we're going to really have a look at lessons from the glass angel and how we can be better together. Now, for many of you that know, The Glass Angel is my latest book, and in it, I have shown you the transformation of my life. In this podcast, I really want to take you through some of the key learnings, and I want to walk you through some of the relevance I see in day-to-day life. Now, the episode today is called The Gift of Alchemy. The purpose of my podcast season is really to help support you with the stories and the tools and really the learning to heal and to transform. I want to help you stop just surviving in your life, because I think we are caught in these constant cycles of survival, but we're missing out on thriving and on being present in the moment and on actually just being peaceful. And I want to share this with you. Only you can do it. So, this first episode of this new season, I really want to unpack alchemy and the power of transformation. But what is alchemy? It's quite a big word, and I've had to share it with many people as I've started promoting the new book and really using the work in my coaching. The gift of alchemy, according to me, is the magical process of transformation. It's when we can transform our mind, our thinking, who we are and how we show up, and we can transform our story, and then we can transform how we live our life and how we bring our full potential to light. The gift of alchemy for me really can be summed up in a few ways. And these are some of the things I really want to explore in today's podcast. The first one is you are precious and your essence is beautiful. And only you can unlock your essence. And when we do that, it's a process of refinement fueled with love. And in today's episode, we are very definitely going to explore love a little bit. And we're going to explore, well, how do we actually do it? I'll share with you how I see essence. I meet people often, and as soon as their guard comes down, once they've spent a little bit of time with me, I get to spend time with the most beautiful human being, because I can see their essence in that moment. All their protection has melted away, and in front of me is this beautiful human that is connecting deeply and feeling and giving and receiving love. You know, when we meet people in our life and we fall in love, your husband or your wife or your partner, there's those moments in the initial meeting of the person where you look deeply into their eyes and they look at you and you feel seen and heard. And there's that exchange of love, and then your essence glows through. And I do believe that's what we fall in love with. Now, our essence is something that is who we really are, but it gets hidden, and it gets hidden by our stories, by our shame, and by our fear. I spent some time today with a wonderful person, and we were really just exploring some of the challenges and the opportunities in their lives. And sometimes we want to change others. We want to fix others. We want others to be better. We want them to change. We want them to conform to the vision and the dream we had of them. But that never happens, and we get more frustrated, and then our fear kicks in, and honestly, we don't show up our best selves. So maybe what we can do is we can start that alchemy process within ourselves. My third book that I released was called Grow Me. And I talk about the change needs to start in you so that you can change your world. You see, when I show up differently in my world and I see my world with love and acceptance, my world starts looking differently. And then the final part I really want to explore in today's podcast is love is your key. It's not the love you give others or the love that others give you. It's in actual fact the love you give yourself first. Now, I want to actually read a quote from Bell Hooks today, and I'm going to do the best I can with this. So there we go. One of the best guides to how to be self-loving is to give ourselves the love we are often dreaming about receiving from others. There was a time where I felt lousy about my over 40 body, saw myself as too fat, too this, too that. Yet I fantasized about finding a lover who would give me the gift of being loved as I am. It is easy, isn't it, that I would dream of someone else offering me the acceptance and affirmation I was withholding from myself. This is the moment where the maxim, you can never love anyone if you're unable to love yourself, was made clear and had sense. And I added, I did not expect to receive the love from anyone else. You can't expect what you need to give yourself to be given by anyone else. This was written by Bell Hooks. And really, I want to just pick up on that. Often, I want someone else to fill my cup. I want someone else to tell me that I'm good enough, that I've made a massive difference, that I am beautiful, that I'm kind. I want their recognition of the things I need to hear. But here's the challenge. I don't have a relationship with myself. I don't know how to love myself. I don't know how to see the good in me. Many years ago, I thought it was about what I knew that would allow me to be accepted. But I was pushing for acceptance and I was pushing for love. And as I've gone through my alchemy and my transformation journey, which I'll keep transforming, I have found that I started a journal, which was my Know Who You Are journal. And in that journal, I really started connecting with the beauty in me. And it felt strange because I grew up in a home where, we were told to be humble. And I thought being humble was, being harder on myself. And as I navigated my journey of shame and fear, I used self-hurt. It's the best way I can put it into place for you, as the fuel for me to move through my life. And that's really the survival brain. But the challenge is, the more I did that, the more I got caught in more cycles of coping behaviors that created more shame. So a few years ago, I remember I'm actually sitting in Melbourne today in a hotel room, but I was traveling for work, and I remember coming across something that Brene Brown said, and she said, you can rewrite your story. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to rewrite my story. I want to look at my story differently, because at the moment, my story is something that hurts me when I think about it. My story was so filled with shame. And I'm just going to share with you what keeps us out of transforming our lives, and what keeps us out of our growth is shame. Shame stories. Shame is the feeling that there's something about me that's not worthy of love and belonging. And the story of shame I had was, being molested as a young child, needing to please, to be accepted, being in a ministry with my parents and doing the best I could to be the good minister's daughter. There's so many stories, right through to my first marriage and where that fell apart, and I left not in the best circumstances, and I had shame, 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 shame. And there was judgment from others, which compounded my shame, which meant that my alchemy process really needed to happen, because my story was becoming too heavy to carry. And in actual fact, if I didn't change my story, I was going to rewrite from a rinse and repeat perspective my story, versus writing my new story. So I have started rewriting my story. And in actual fact, someone asked me, how do you do that? Well, I look at my stories in my life that were the challenging ones that were hard when they happened, and I know that there was shame around them. And I douse them in love. I douse them in love because it's my story and I walked through that story. So here's how I did it. The first thing is I really had to embrace the fact that I am worthy of love and belonging. And the only way I could do that was by accepting and loving me. See, I had to fall in love with me. This is not vain. This is not vain. This is accepting my imperfections. This is looking at my life and instead of, verbally abusing myself, which I seem to be pretty good at, I actually had to learn how to be kind to myself. Instead of traveling like an absolute maniac and exhausting myself and trying to be there for every single person in my life, I had to start prioritizing me. I had to start prioritizing my mental health, my physical health, my relationship health. And maybe the most important thing is this: the relationship I have with myself, intimacy with me. Very hard to do, yet the only way that allows me not to look at others to fill my cup. As I already said, my past story was filled with so much shame, and I was hiding from it, or I was just throwing it out there and using myself as the party trick to see who would judge me, knowing that there would be judgment. And almost in so many ways, hurting myself in the process just one more time. But if I can look at my story with love, and I want to say this to you. As we've walked through our life, I don't think we intend to do bad things or hurt other people or put ourselves in a place of separation from our community through the decisions we make. I think in those moments, our brain is just navigating how we survive. Now, is that an excuse for some of the bad things we might have done? No, I think we've got to own them. But we've got to own them with compassion, real compassion. I think we don't have enough compassion. I'll share this with you. You might go, but I'm really compassionate and I'm really compassionate with other people. That's okay. When you're sitting with someone and they do something and in your heart you are so uncomfortable and you go home and you tell your husband or your wife or your partner how uncomfortable you were. Well, let me share this with you. There's something in that moment where you lack the compassion for somebody else because you didn't have the compassion for yourself when you walked through that. See, the only way to stop the cycles of fear that we keep going through is to have a look at our shame and to understand what we're telling ourselves in those moments and to start untangling the roots that keep our story locked in a cycle of repeat. So I thought I would put some questions up today because I'm kind of interviewing myself, right? Why did I decide to transform my life? What was my catalyst? My catalysts came, and I shared this in some of the interviews I'm doing at the moment on some other podcasts, is my beautiful son Josh was bullied at school and he ended up struggling to go to school for almost 2 years. It was a real battle. John and I had the hardest time. And I knew in those moments I was escaping to another coping behavior, which I have, which is being a workaholic. Now, those workaholics out there, you know what I mean, because we try and work so hard that we're not present in our own life, where we actually have to be accountable, be present, and be connected. because it just feels like it's too hard. And the story we tell ourselves in this moment, we're working hard to take care of our family. Well, yes, we are. But do we need to do it at the cost of those in our lives? So I arrive at the family counselling centre. John and Josh are already there. I push my suitcases in. The counsellor looks at me and I can already feel judgment. And I was like, I'm already going to make sure that I'm just doing the best I can. And I think there were two things in that moment. The first thing was feeling ashamed that my beautiful son has to be here and that he's going through this, and feeling that it was my fault. And the other part was not knowing how to make it better and getting frustrated with that. As we sat there, the counsellor asked me through the time, do you think you could work less? Now that was a trigger for me. How could I work less? What was she saying? Was she saying I'm a bad mother? See, that's the story that floated through my mind. And that compounded with the fact that I felt so ashamed and guilty that I couldn't be there for my son when he needed me the most. Because I had told myself a story in my belief that I needed to work hard. And this is how it fell out in that session. And it was based on my lack of trust for the partners in my life who'd not been able to help me be the mum I needed to be by financially supporting me. And I said, you see that man sitting over there? He does not have to take care of me. It's my responsibility to take care of my son. He could leave me at any moment. And all the rubbish came, that fear just came falling out. And it was all that stuff that had been stuck in the back of my mind. We all cried. It was really hard. I left after that session and I was really frustrated. Later that day, I got a call from the therapist and she said to me that she needed to let me know that I'm suffering from PTSD and that until I heal me, my son won't be able to have the support he needs to heal. I lost it. I want to say to you that it was an easy emotion. It was not. All my shame compounded. And I felt terribly in pain. Best way to position it, terribly in pain. So for a week, I'd fought it and I was really grumpy and how dare she say this to me? And then I got out of my own way. See, that was just my fear talking. And I had a shame explosion or a pufferfish moment, as those of you who know me, I like calling it. And I found a therapist/coach who I trusted and who I could have deep connection with and share my story. And my transformation moved from what I know to who I am. So the next question I have, how did I stop the pain? That's a big question because the pain was really intense. The pain was intense because I was not owning what I needed to. And in actual fact, I was not accepting. See, I was trying to prove that I was worthy of love and belonging. I was trying to prove that I was smart enough. I was trying to show myself that I could do this. And the pain was just stuck. I was stuck in my story. I was stuck in that shame place. And a while ago, my brother and I were talking about this shame is like being burnt with hot water. It was like being burnt all over my body. That's what it felt like. And I just wanted the pain to go away. In actual fact, with my therapist the first time, he said to me, what are we working on? I said, peacefulness and freedom. And in actual fact, I remember I said to him in that very first session, I just want to surrender. And I think he was worried that I might be saying to him that I want to commit suicide. But I don't believe that's where I was at. I just wanted the intensity of what I needed to carry to go away. There is this thought that connection helps, and connection with compassion always helps. You see, when we bring our story to light and we bring it to life, shame can't survive. Thank you, Brene, for your definition. Shame survives in secrecy, silence, and judgment. Shame cannot survive being spoken and being spoken in a peaceful place. And connection helps. Connection helps. So let me give you the definition of connection. I love definitions. Connection is the energy that exists between us. Now I'm going to stop there. When I'm not transforming my life, when I'm stuck in shame, I am protecting myself, which means my survival brain is on fire. Okay. I cannot have connection. And I want to share this with you. The most challenging part is I don't have connection with me. I can't connect with me. So how can I even connect with you from a heart place, from an energy place? I might be connecting with you intellectually, but often that is what I think is the right thing to say, not who I really am. Connecting with you, who you really are, and not judging you in that moment, but just being there. Just being there. I'm going to keep on with that definition. It's the energy that exists between us when I feel seen, heard, and valued. And when I look at you, you are seen, heard, and valued. And there where you and I can give and receive without judgment. How cool is that? We all hate judgment. Often when I start my sessions, I ask the team, what would stop you from bringing all you have today? And do you know, without fail, it comes up, is that I just don't want to be judged. So we need to be able to lay down our fear to be connected, to be accepting, to allow others to bring what they have, even if it's not what we were expecting. Maybe it's just accepting that they're bringing the best they can in that moment and being there with them. And then if we can do that, we actually get sustenance, joy, and love from that relationship, and we heal. When we don't do this, we experience loneliness. Loneliness is a killer. Loneliness means we isolate from either our partner, our community, ourselves. We're just stuck. And I'll share this with you. The more alone you are, the more alone you want to be. Yet the problem with being alone is it's not how we were wired. It's not how we were made. We were made to be connected with each other. And I'll share this with you. In loneliness, we hide. We hide from ourselves. We hide from our community. And our story separates us. And by the way, not everyone knows your story, but you know your story, so you separate just in case they see your imperfection and judge you. Just in case they see your story and judge you. See, when I self-love, I make peace with me. And I make peace with if they are going to separate, judge me, that belongs to them. That doesn't belong to me. It's not easy when you get judged because it triggers shame. But what you can do is you can remind yourself of who you are and hold on to that because you know. Before my transformation, here's another question. How did I show up? Well, I showed up with knowledge. It was what I knew. Like I could see my growth ended up, really came from what I knew, and what I knew I wanted to make part of me. And I was really integrating it, but it kept getting stuck. It kept getting stuck because there was one big thing I needed to do. I needed to accept and love me. And through my journey, I have. So I journal. I say kind words to me. I set boundaries with others. If they forget who I am, I remind them with love and grace, especially in families where kids can go, Mom, you're so stupid. And you go, no, I'm going to remind you who I am. I'm your beautiful mum who loves you. And what I give you is I give you the best of what I have. And if you've got more to teach me, that's wonderful. But I'm sharing with you from a place of experience and love. See, when I do that, I change that story immediately. And so what I've learned to do now is I show up differently. I show up me. I show up in that moment. I spend time with me. So why is transformation even important in organizations? Because it sounds like a very personal thing. When our people don't grow and don't start transforming their thinking and their lives, we will keep having disconnected cultures, cultures where people feel they've got to show up a certain way within a square to be accepted versus bringing their generous, kind, beautiful selves. In my work, I talk about a hive and how we need to be better together. And one of the biggest challenges I've seen is we don't know how to be better together. And we don't have the courage to share our heart. We don't have the courage to lean in to check our understanding. We don't have the courage to consider when we want to be get a result at all cost. How do we get there? How do we actually inspire people? So transformation and self-growth is the foundation to workplaces and teams that are better together. And then the final thing, and I'm really touching on a lot of things today, I want to try and wrap this up in the next 3 minutes, is why is it important for our lives? Well, how we impact our kids and how we impact our family creates generational trauma. So if I've got trauma and stories that I've never dealt with, I will use language and fears around my children and around my life, which they will then take on and they will imprint into their children's lives. And so it becomes this culture of disconnection and separation. And I don't think it's the way in which we heal our societies and in the way in which we heal our families. And it has to start in us. So, okay, the question is, how do you start the journey? Well, I choose to no longer be responding to my circumstances by needing to prove, protect, and control. I now realize I can choose to accept, connect, and navigate. See, those are two very different things. The one is from a place of fear and angst, a place where I need to. The others is a place of I am. Today, I want to share with you that the most important thing you can do is to quiet your mind, to be more peaceful, and to understand when your armor shows up, fear and coping behaviors. It's there because you've taught yourself to survive in your world. And maybe you can have compassion for yourself when they show up instead of being mean to yourself and angry, but have compassion and recognize that when these show up, they stop us. They'll stop you from being with others where your healing and where your sense of belonging lies. And then I want to give you the definition of love, right? Love is a root emotion. Our positive, peaceful emotions are based in love. Love is an acceptance that we are in this moment, that things outside of our control are, that we, in who we are worthy of love and belonging. And it starts in us first through self-acceptance and love. And when we do this, it enables us to have unconditional, deep affection and compassion for others. We are open and we are generous. Okay, so what's next? I'm about to wrap up this episode. What's next is we need to start a reflection journal. So please go to a stationery shop or wherever you want to and start, or if you want to type it out, that's fine too. But start a reflections journal for yourself to remind yourself of who you really are and to start reflecting on the stories and on your fear and think about where it's coming from. And instead of placing blame on others or harming yourself, why don't you look at it from a place of love and take a perspective of grace? Maybe when we can start remembering who we are and start listening to the beauty that we bring to our world, it'll help us to be better in our world. This is Christina Foxwell. Why don't you get a copy of my new book, The Glass Angel, and see how I've used my alchemy tools to transform my life. I hope today my message was easy to listen to, and I can't wait to connect in with you next week for the next one. I'm going to say, have a beautiful, beautiful week. Stay peaceful. Stay hungry to be the best of who you are, because it's already inside you. And stay ready and curious and filled with courage to take away some of that fear. This is me. Have a beautiful, beautiful day, and we chat soon. Bye.